And yeah, Nadia is like the kind of like composer, just kind of like, monitoring the balance,
Bring the beat in.
Yeah, it was very,
Charles, we all been searching our hearts to be kind since your mom died.
Phenomenal film, very haunting. So congratulations on that. And Nadia, to start with you, congratulations on a beautiful directorial debut.
Thank you very much.
One thing that really struck me watching the movie is what a keen visual eye you have for just framing of the shots. So many of them were just very striking. How did you approach shooting the film? Did you have any reference points in terms of other artists or filmmakers that you were stylistically inspired by?
Yeah, and full credit to my DP, Ula Ponticos, who is a truly remarkable woman. But I think we storyboarded the entire film. I drew all my storyboards myself because I felt like it was really important to actually, I do a lot of life drawing just so I can be ready to draw my storyboards. But also I think because there's something about life drawing that encourages you to look at a body as a 360-degree thing, and that's fundamentally how you figure out where to put a camera. But I think that actually initially we were probably more influenced by painting than we were by necessarily other filmmakers. We were looking at the painting of, Lynette Adam-Bourquier, the photographs of Carrie Mae Weems, and also the paintings of Alice Neal, because I think we were sort of considering the film as a series of portraits, and then that sort of told you how to do everything else. I mean, there definitely were some other film references. We were very influenced by the kind of films of Jonathan Demme, again, looking at that kind of portraiture thing. But then you also have to find your own language, you know what I mean? And we knew that how we wanted to use light in the film, when we were in the basement, we were like, we really are just going to use these practical lights. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's an overhead light, and there's a sink light, and there's one in the corner. And that isn't, and sometimes we were like, why did we do that? Why couldn't we have just brought in a whole bunch of lamps? But actually it was, and how we were going to change the light over the course of the film. But we had a very kind of in-depth, very planned, very kind of what does everything mean? What does every camera angle mean? Really felt like there were no shots in it that we were like, this is just in here because it's cool. It's like, no, the camera has to tell us something. It has to, if it's going to shift down and the eye line's going to stay up, that's telling me something about how power is shifting in this scene. Or if they're both going up at the same time, maybe the temperature is rising in the scene. So it's all very specifically plotted, sometimes in a way where I'm like, is anyone ever going to know this besides me? But I do think it does come across, and I think particularly when you're doing the scenes with Willem and Corey and they're really going at each other, I think the camera is trying to slightly subtly tell you who's winning. You know what I mean? This is why is it shifted to the right? Because Corey's about to lose. Do you know what I mean? But yes.
Yeah, speaking of that, there was one shot that really stuck with me. I don't know the technical terminology, but where you can see...
You're talking about a split diopter?
Yeah, split diopter. That's what it is.
I love a split diopter. I think it's a real, my favorite decades of cinema are the 70s and the 90s, and it's a really big 70s thing. So,
a few times.
I did it twice. There was a third one, but unfortunately it hit the cutting room floor. We went and shot it in Sag Harbor. There was a really good one for by road. But but again, that's the thing where it's typically in film, only one thing can be in focus, but Hard Davis with both of them being in focus in a moment felt like quite an important thing to say. In that point in the film, it's in this moment, they're both considering each other and they can see each other. And obviously kind of Willem looms large and, Corey is smaller because in that moment, that's about who thinks that they have power. And the next thing Corey says is tries to put him down. But shout out for the split diopter. I love them. They're quite a big thing. They're quite a big gesture. Do you know what I mean? But I was just do you know what? It just feels really appropriate. Yeah. But R.I.P. to the third split diopter shot that never made it. I've got it on my laptop somewhere. I just look at it when I'm feeling. I think I sent you a picture of it.
It's great.
Make it your screensaver or something.
Just Corey looking sadly into the distance.
Corey, good pivot to you. You looking sadly into the distance. There was unfortunately a lot of this in this film.
What to do.
But I'm curious. Obviously, so much of this film, it was very theatrical, which makes sense. Nadia, with your history in theater, just so many tense, interplays between your character and Willem's. Was there a particular scene that felt like the biggest challenge for you, or one that you were most nervous approaching filming for?
There is, but I won't say that one because it's a bit of a shocking moment in the film. I think every time I think the way you approach it is that every time you walk downstairs, every time Charles comes down into the basement, there is something drastically different, and not physically, but just
Sometimes physically, sometimes we would move things without telling you.
Yeah, well,
just
like,
to kind
there
of
was
like have a little
always-
visual destabilization of like actually
was
the
always-
lamps moved.
something very, just disconcerting about that world down there, and the visual language and actual emotional language of the basement. And so, but I think actually, towards the end, when we're talking about Moby Dick, and
God, I love that scene.
it's just it's one of those things that kind of was just so eye-opening for me. His relation to that story, and so it's very simple, but also really challenging. Sometimes the more combative moments are a little maybe easier, because you just sort of go for it, and you have two actors who can just kind of like play that ping pong. But where they're both these characters kind of weighing out these very complicated like ideas and things, and Charles takes those things and tries to imbue his life with them upstairs to varying degrees of success. And so it's just thrilling to be able to go toe to toe with Willem Dafoe. And yeah, Nadia is like the kind of like composer, just kind of like monitoring the balance,
Bring the beat in.
Yeah, it was very, it was lovely in that way. Yeah.
And I guess this is sort of a question both for you, Corey, and Nadia. So Charles is a protagonist we very rarely see on screen, especially at the forefront of a narrative like this. He's done bad things, he's deeply broken, and he's extremely vulnerable. What appealed to you about embodying this character?
Everything you just said.
I think I'm drawn towards things like that. Do you know what I mean? Like I was thinking the other day about there's a Senegalese film called Mandabi that I absolutely love, and the protagonist is like he's like a con man. None of his family like him. He's stolen his nephew's like money, and he's gonna go and try and buy himself something nice, and then bad things happen to him. But I just thought about how much I enjoyed that. It was a really important film for me when I was younger. But I was like, I think in some ways it's harder with Charles, because if somebody's like an out and out anti-hero, then you're kind of just waiting for their downfall, and we know as an audience we're going to take pleasure in that. But that's not the case with Charles. He is a deeply sympathetic person, and everyone around him seems quite healthy. So I think in a way he is an anti-hero, but one that's still like it has the kind of possibility of redemption, and that's when we meet here at the beginning of the film, you can see everyone is like right at the end of that rope of going like, we've been trying to be kind to you, but you make it too hard. And that felt like a really exciting point to put a character at, of like, this is the rock bottom. But I remember me and Walter talked about it really early on. We were actually having an argument about something else, and so some plot point, and he was like, I'm Walter Mosey, and I write black male heroes. And I was like, what's a hero to you? And he's like, well, a hero is somebody that you would ask for help. It could be anything. It could be, could you help me change my tire? And I was like, well, that's interesting, because nobody would ask Charles for help. Do you know what I mean? So in a way, it totally frees you from the kind of normal kind of construction of a character, because you're just sort of like, nobody is asking, depending on him, nobody's asking him for anything, because he is not that person, which is also so lonely. It is so lonely to be somebody that nobody would ever count on. And that became like a real like, oh, I get it. Nobody is ever going to ask him for help.
Absolutely. And Anna, first of all, I'm so thrilled to chat with you. I loved you in Nanny, and I've genuinely been thinking about that movie for the last several years since I saw it at Sundance. I think it was something about seeing it in early motherhood for me that really it was an experience, but beautiful film. And I think that there's something similar about the story, sort of the themes going on in both films, and also the genres are a bit similar. What is it about the psychological thriller genre with like the little touch of supernatural, maybe not all the way, that you think, this is a loaded question, that you think works so well for telling these types of stories?
It's a great loaded question. I just think it's a vehicle for for more empathy. I think it just allows, like we were just speaking about this recently, for filmmakers, it gives them like a bigger palette to work with, right? These aren't just straight up dramas. These are stories that are laced with these supernatural elements, with these really heavy topics, and it almost kind of takes the supernatural thing to be able to balance it all out. So yeah, I am drawn to them. I think they are drawn to me too. I will say they end up on my desk really often. I don't know if there's something
She
about
got a
me
face for horror.
that just I think that might be it. I'm good with that. But
Have you got a good scream? Could you be a scream queen?
I think I got
Is it?
I think I'm
It's
all
no
right.
small thing, man.
I think I'm all right. But yeah, I think it's just it offers all of us a more of a palette to communicate this kind of suffering and pain and pursuit of figuring things out. Yeah.